Hi, friends. Welcome to the Get Cyber Smart podcast, your 7 to 10 minute educational look into this crazy thing we call cyber. In this episode, we continue with our series on protecting your kids online. This particular episode will have to do with sexting and sextortion, the things you need to know and how to keep your kids safe. So as I've gone through designing this particular set of podcasts, I've tried to think about the important topics I wanted to present to parents on how to keep their kids safe online. Last week, we talked about apps. I talked a little bit about TikTok and some other apps and things to keep them, be aware of the threats there. But some of the threats that come from the apps is what we're going to talk about today. This is not your easiest topic necessarily for you to hear about or to have discussions with your kids about, but it's a very important topic for you to think about because the stats on sexting and sextortion are very eye-opening, I guess I should say. And we'll get to those in a second. Well, let's just talk about what sexting and sextortion is. They're two kind of different things. Sexting is when kids send graphic, usually nude or semi-nude or whatever, images of themselves to significant others or to other kids. And then sextortion is the use by predators, online predators, to get a child to send them graphically explicit images, and then they use those images to extort the kid to money. Otherwise, they will release those images to their friends, families, and stuff, causing embarrassment and things like that. So that can lead to a whole lot of different issues. There's been a lot of news stories about kids who've killed themselves over being sextorted. So we're going to talk about both of those things kind of combined. They're two separate things somewhat, but yet they're really combined. And so I'm going to talk about those here. This is not going to be an end-all, be-all for sexting and sextortion. In other words, you're not going to leave this and say, okay, I know everything, I'm good to go. That's not the point of this podcast, really, is to kind of give you an idea of a certain topic, and hopefully you'll go off and explore and do some additional research. And again, one of the other things I'm trying to do here is create an educational program that will expand on all these topics I'm talking about. I'm still working on that, and I'll let you know when I'm closer to that. So let's talk about some stats from sexting and sextortion. And so the first one here is that this is from the FBI's IC3 Internet Crime Complaint Center 2021 crime stat report. The FBI received 18,000 sextortion complaints in 2021. Now, chances are that number is low because you're going to have people that just don't report that it happened because it's embarrassing. It could lead to all sorts of mental health problems. And so people just don't report. Like with many crimes, people don't report when the crime exists. So that's stat number one. Stat number two, the estimated loss, $13.6 million, meaning of the people who reported they were sextorted, they paid the sextortionist or the extortionist about $13.6 million. Again, that number is likely low. There's probably a lot more individuals that paid money that never reported that particular issue occurred. At least 1 in 4 teens are receiving sexually explicit texts and emails, either willingly, in other words, are having their friends or their boyfriends, girlfriends send them those, or they're getting them just randomly, which leads to some of these issues down the line. So this, again, a reason why, as a parent, you need to look at technology, you need to look at the things that are there as risks to your kids and really talk to them about these issues. We'll talk about that in a little bit. At least 1 in 7 are sending sexts, meaning that they're sending sexually graphic images of themselves to significant others. And more than 1 in 10 are forwarding these texts without consent, meaning that they're sending those images out to others who they were not intended to. This can lead to a whole host of different issues that we'll talk about in just a second. And last stat, about 1 in 12 have had sex they've sent forwarded without their consent. So it's a problem that really something you need to talk to your preteens and teens about these issues because this is happening. We're finding it happening at much younger ages as well. So certainly a large issue and something you will continue to hear about, stories about these kind of issues going ahead as a parent. So let's take some negative impacts to sexting. I mean, you can probably think of many off the top of your head. First one is criminal record, which maybe that's not one you're thinking about, but think of it this way. So forgetting the sextortion piece, we're talking just about sexting here, where kids take images and they send those images to significant others, other teens. That is engaging in the trafficking of child pornography, whether they know it or not. If a 15-year-old takes a naked image of themselves and sends it to someone else through the internet, that is distribution of child pornography. Now, this becomes a much larger issue when, let's say, a boyfriend and a girlfriend break up. The boyfriend has images of the girlfriend and then sends those to his friends. that's where you're going to have an issue. I mean, the other part's an issue too, but as far as where the law enforcement gets engaged, it's going to be in that particular instance. And so if, let's say, the boyfriend is then arrested for the distribution of child pornography, chances are he will be convicted. And then he's got a criminal record, a felony criminal record, which will follow him for the rest of his life, or her life, really, because it can happen either way. So I don't want to, say only boys do this and girls do it as well. So it can cause a criminal record that follows them the rest of their life. They won't ever be able to get a government clearance. So they won't ever be able to work for the government. They won't ever be able to vote if they have a felony conviction, and all the issues that arise having a felony conviction. Plus, they'll have to register as sex offenders, which will, again, follow them the rest of their lives. This can result in bullying, obviously. Kids are mean. Kids continue to be mean. We've talked about cyberbullying just being one of the general threats that kids are facing today. But sexting, sextortion leads to it, or sexting generally leads to this bullying as well, because obviously you have the images that can then be used to online shame and bully kids. Lead to depression, obviously, for obvious reasons. The mental health ramifications of this kind of activity is enormous, and so if you have kids that suddenly become depressed, that you wouldn't have expected it before, certainly this may be something to talk to them about or look into, because it may be the underlying cause of that depression or other mental health crisis. Loss of future opportunities. Again, with the criminal record, you're going to lose all those future opportunities that you won't be able to do as because you're a registered sex offender, you have a felony, things of that nature. And finally, impact to future relationships. This can impact this particular activity, both sexting and we talked about sextortion too, can lead to lack of trust to other partners, and it just can cause a lot of long-term negative impacts down the road. So what can you do as a parent? So, we talk about these things, and again, this is a very short look at sexting and sextortion. So as a parent, how you can kind of get ahead of this, or at least deal with it if the issue occurs. The first thing you can do is talk openly about what sextortion is. In other words, if a child or a kid or a preteen, whatever, is extorted because they sent sexually explicit images to someone else, they should be able to come to you so you can help them through it. Now, chances are, if you as the parent are aware of the issue, the extortionist probably won't do much beyond that. And even if, sadly, if he does end up sending the images because he wasn't paid or she wasn't paid, that can have ramifications. But you can talk to your kids about how to get through those things, learn from it. I know it's easier to say, or easier for me, easier said than done, but certainly something, at least talk about the issue and hopefully prevent it before it happens, understanding that there are predators out there that are looking for kids to send these images directly. Ask them to come to you if they've suspected criminal may have targeted them. This is a very important point. This goes all the way back to the first episode I did in this series about what kind of parent do you want to be? Do you want to be the kind of parent that talks to your kids about these issues and keeps them protected and has that two-way street? Do you want to be their friend and let them do whatever they want? Again, I can't answer that question for you. You have to think about it yourself, but hopefully if you have a trusting relationship with your kids, then they can come to you with these issues so they don't become larger issues down the road. Encourage them to block or ignore messages from strangers and never communicate with someone who wants to meet up on another platform. Obviously, this is the whole don't talk to strangers thing, but certainly fits here. It's a lot easier for child predators to find willing victims online, move them to another platform that's harder for a parent to monitor. There's a lot of encrypted apps that kids can use to communicate with others that you just don't have access to or aren't aware of. So again, the line of communication, having that communication with your kids open, can help really deal with, stop a lot of these from the start. And so certainly have those conversations. It'll just help you down the line. You can remind your children to never talk about sex with strangers. Again, be careful what you do with strangers. I don't think I really need to go into great detail on what that particular means. Explain they should never share intimate photos or videos of themselves or anyone else. That's a key thing to stop or to prevent the likelihood of being arrested for distribution of child pornography. This is a very important point. Now, is your 16, 17-year-old kid going to listen to you and say it? You got to hope they do. But still, at some point, if they do it, then they're going to have to deal with the ramifications. But hopefully, if you've had those conversations leading up to that, then they will be in a better place to recognize when the issue is coming and then go forth and do the right thing and not become a victim. And have them understand that images shared privately with close friends or romantic partners could either deliberately or accidentally wind up in the wrong hands. It happens time and time again. And that can lead to, again, the issues that we talked about before. So that is really, like I said, a very quick look at sexting and sextortion. I'm going to go into a lot more depth on this when I create my cybersecurity for parents program. If it's something you're interested in, email me, Darren@thecyberguy.com, or you can follow me at LinkedIn, linkedin.com/INDarrenMott. I very much thank you for taking the time to download and listen to these podcasts. Please share them with others. I think the topic here is very important for parents. And I apologize at the end here, my little logo going off. I did not mean, that's a kind of mistake. I didn't realize I did that at the beginning, but how about get rid of that? That'd be good. So again, email me, find me on LinkedIn. Thanks so much for taking the time to listen. Know that knowledge is protection. If we understand the threats targeting us, we can assess our risk appropriately and proceed wisely. Have a great week.